Hello, my name is Logan.
My name is Reese.
And my name is Zach.
And this is a social history timeline of HIV and AIDS from 1985 to 1989. The scientific aspect. In 1985, the American Foundation for AIDS Research was founded. After a donation of $250,000 from actor Rock Hudson, the foundation started picking up speed. The foundation rewarded $1.5 million for research grants and advocated in Congress for more HIV research. They performed many clinical testing trials with treatments, and they helped pass legislation such as the Ryan White Care Act. In March of 1985, the enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, or ELISA, was approved by the FDA. The tests test a patient's blood or oral fluid for the antibodies associated with HIV, and in order to confirm a positive result, another test must be done. In March of 1987, the FDA approved the first antiretroviral drug for the treatment of AIDS called zidovudine, or AZT. It is said to stop the reproduction of DNA and reduces the viral load in the blood. It was commonly used to reduce the chance of transmission from mother to child during pregnancy, and because of the high cost of the medication at first, it made it harder for lots of people to obtain, and so Congress approved $30 million to the states to help pay for AZT for low-income patients. In April of 1987, the Western blot became available and was used to confirm positive HIV diagnoses. It worked by separating the proteins in the blood and was used to identify the specific protein indicative of HIV. When the ELISA test and Western blot are combined, the tests give results that are 99.9% accurate. In August of 1987, the FDA allowed the first human testing of a trial vaccine for HIV. The trial was performed by the National Institute of Health Clinical Center in Maryland, and phase 1 of the trial used 138 candidates, and there were no threatening effects seen on any of the candidates.
Social aspects. In 1985, Ryan White was banned from school due to being HIV positive. White was a hemophiliac, meaning his blood didn't properly clot when he received cuts. This means that White required many blood transfusions when a specific amount of blood was lost. During the HIV pandemic, White required a transfusion, and unfortunately at the time, the blood supply of the United States was not tested for HIV. White became infected with HIV through a blood transfusion with contaminated blood. In response to finding out he was HIV positive, his school board banned him from school due to the stigma attached to HIV and fearing that he could spread the disease to others. In 1985, the United States military also bought into the stigma and denied all new military recruits that tested positive for HIV. In 1986, against party affiliation, the Surgeon General of the United States, C. Everett Koop, sends out flyers to every home in the United States about how to prevent HIV. These flyers mention protective sex and encourage school systems to bring sexual education into the curriculum. In addition to this, the CDC reports that Latinos and African Americans are being disproportionately affected by HIV/AIDS within the United States. In 1987, the CDC starts to release its first public service announcements about HIV and AIDS. The CDC hopes that these announcements will spread awareness of the AIDS during the newly appointed AIDS Awareness Month, October. In 1987, Princess Diana is also photographed giving a handshake to an HIV-positive patient. This brought up uproar. In 1988, December 1st is World AIDS Day. Political aspect. The Reagan administration is well known for its inability to speak up about the HIV virus. For the first time since the virus became public knowledge, Reagan officially mentions AIDS September 17, 1985. In 1986, 38,401 cases of AIDS were reported globally. By region, Africa with 2,323 cases, Americas with 31,741 cases, Asia with 84, Europe with 3,858 cases, and Oceania with 395 cases. In 1987, 2 years after he first publicly mentioned AIDS, Reagan gives a speech on AIDS. This speech was meant to inform the public that Reagan and his administration was well aware of the virus and saw the HIV virus as a top priority. Reagan wanted the public to understand that his administration was actively fighting the virus and providing the funds needed for research and aid towards those affected with AIDS/HIV. In 1987, for the first time since its creation, the United Nations debates AIDS on its General Assembly. To honor Ryan White's name, Congress passes the Ryan White Care Act in 1988. This act provides those that are HIV positive and are in low-income households to be able to get the help that they need. More than half the people within the United States receive aid from this act to this day.
While there were many important individuals during this time period, 5 of them are shown here. To start off looking at the United States government, Ronald Reagan was the President of the United States. Reagan was important because he gave his first speech on AIDS in 1987, bringing the attention of the general public to the epidemic. Additionally, Reagan created the Presidential Commission on the HIV epidemic in 1987, which aimed to help understand AIDS and research a cure. While he did mobilize the United States government towards fighting the epidemic, Reagan is often criticized for not acting as fast as he should have. One of Reagan's cabinet members, United States Surgeon General C. Everett Koop, released the Surgeon General report on October 22nd of 1986. In this report, Koop elaborated on the signs and symptoms of AIDS, the effects of AIDS on the body, the methods by which AIDS is transmitted, and the methods for preventing the spread of AIDS without any apparent political motivations. While Reagan was slow to attend to the epidemic, the situation in South Africa was much worse. The Prime Minister during this time was P.W. Botha, who maintained the ideas of apartheid and white supremacy. Because the epidemic was initially confined to the homosexual and non-white communities, Botha used the epidemic to marginalize those groups and promote the supremacy of white South Africans. Hollywood was an area that paid much attention to the epidemic. Rock Hudson was an actor who was known for his romantic and comedic works, and he was rumored to be a homosexual. Hudson died of AIDS in 1985, and in his will gave $250,000 to establish AMFAR and fund research into a cure for AIDS. Finally, Larry Kramer was a homosexual rights activist and a playwright. In 1987, Kramer called for the formation of ACT UP, which is an activist group that wants to end AIDS. Different aspects of the HIV and AIDS epidemic was represented in pop culture during this time period. In 1985, a movie called An Early Frost was released. This movie centers around a young lawyer who contracts AIDS and has to tell his conservative-minded family about being a homosexual and having AIDS. It examines how a family deals with a loved one dying of AIDS and being homosexual. In 1986, the movie Parting Glances released. This movie is about a homosexual couple and their emotional difficulties in dealing with a friend who has AIDS. This movie also deals with the emotional difficulties of relationships. In 1989, a documentary called Tongues Untied was released that explores the life of homosexual African Americans in their community. The stories told in this documentary show how racism and homophobia contributed to how the homosexual African American community was treated by the public. In 1989, Longtime Companion was released, and this movie centers around a homosexual couple and one of their female friends. This movie was focused on how the epidemic affected the relationships of homosexual couples, and it deals with both romantic relationships and friendships. Finally, in 1989, the Ryan White story was released. This movie focuses on Ryan White's fight to get back into school after being diagnosed with HIV from a blood transfusion. This movie shows the fear that the community has of the HIV and AIDS epidemic in how they treat Ryan, and the movie shows the personal issues that Ryan's diagnosis caused for him and his mother. The White family was attacked after they finally won their lawsuit, driving them to leave the town. These movies during the time period appear to have this common theme of how HIV and AIDS affects relationships.
Thank you for watching our presentation. The following slides are our works cited.